Alright, day 2 of December. Time to watch Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition. Hopefully it's not as bad as I remember.
3 hours later.
Happy holidays, folks, and welcome to December, a brand new series on this channel where I will be going through every single DC Extended Universe film in release order, leading up to the final installment and grand finale being Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom that releases later this month. Now, I'll be uploading a video every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday between December 4th and December 28th to cover all of the films in this franchise. There will be tons of spoilers as I break down every single movie as I see fit, so with all that being said, grab a friend, loved one, snacks, popcorn, whatever. I guess popcorn is a snack. Doesn't make a difference. Relax and get ready because today we're talking about what the hell is this sorry excuse for a title drop. Batman v Superman is probably one of my least favorite superhero movies of all time, right down there next to Thor: Love and Thunder. But it didn't start out that way. When the first trailer for this released about 8 years ago, I didn't know it was coming. I didn't have social media. I wasn't keeping up with news about it. I just opened up YouTube one day and saw a trailer uploaded by WB saying Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. And I was super excited. I could not wait to see what was going to happen. I watched the trailer. I was on board with everything that I saw. Even though I had my gripes with Man of Steel, it looked like this was on the right track, and I was super hyped to see what this movie had to offer. But as time went on, I saw more trailers and ads. I got a bit concerned that the movie was going to be a bit too cluttered and they were putting in elements of the movie that shouldn't be there. And eventually, I saw the movie, and I hated it. It, at the time, was my least favorite superhero movie ever made. And as I've rewatched the movie multiple times over the years and a few times for this video, I realized what makes this movie so bad. And it's really quite simple. Batman v Superman is trying to be smarter than it actually is, and it causes the entire movie to fall apart. Instead of this movie being about Batman and Superman having a difference of ideals, forcing the two of them to fight each other because neither one of them can let go of what they feel is right, this movie is one dumbass master plan by Lex Luthor. And I say one dumbass master plan because nothing in his plan works. Not the goal that he wants from his plan or the execution of his plan. None of it works on any way, shape, or form. And because of that, everything in the movie makes no sense and falls apart. Because every scene in this movie is a part of his master plan, but since his master plan doesn't make any sense, the entire movie doesn't make sense. So instead of it being like, oh, okay, I just have a nitpick of this one aspect of the movie that I think didn't work, the entire movie is one massive nitpick because the problem with the movie is his plan. And the entire 3-hour movie is his plan, which is the biggest flaw of this entire film. And it's not like we could have had a simple movie of two superhero best friends fighting each other, one who's tech-based, one who has superpowers, because the two of them both have an opinion that they can't let go of, and their emotional drive forces them to conflict with each other despite the fact that they really like each other. It's not like we have a successful movie like that released the same exact year as Batman v Superman. That would be absurd, right? You know, I'm hallucinating right now. I'm talking about hypotheticals. Let's focus more on this movie at hand, right? So you're probably wondering at this point, what exactly is Lex Luthor's plan that causes this whole movie to fall apart? Well, I'm glad you asked. You see, Lex's plan is to prove that Superman is a bad person and then kill him. It's a simple plan, but the problem with this plan is he does nothing to actually execute this plan throughout the course of the whole movie. You see, Lex has a fundamental philosophy. Basically, in simpler terms, it means if you're a good person, you cannot have the power to do good things and change the world. And if you're a bad person, it means you do have the power to do whatever the hell you want. It's quite simple. However, the problem with this is Superman is a good person with the power to change the world for the better, and Lex fundamentally can't accept that because of his past traumas being beaten and abused by his father. He used to pray to God and beg that someone would save him, and no one ever came, so now he doesn't believe that there are good people in the world who can actually change things, and Superman's mere existence breaks his brain, and he can't accept that he is real, so he wants to prove that he's actually a flawed and terrible individual. I think this works as a fantastic way to set up Lex Luthor's conflict with Superman. The problem with this is that Lex doesn't try to prove that Superman is a bad person throughout the whole movie. He just frames him for a bunch of stuff that he didn't do. Framing someone and revealing someone for being a terrible person are nowhere near the same kind of plan. Let's take a quick sidebar and talk about a universe where what Lex Luthor in this movie wants to do is executed properly. In Justice, Within the confines of the Injustice universe, the Joker one day decides to go over to Metropolis and mess with Superman. He kidnaps Superman's wife, Lois Lane, and when Superman arrives to save her and stop the Joker douses him with Scarecrow's fear toxin laced with kryptonite so it would affect him. And Clark, in this fear-induced state, believes that Lois is Doomsday, and he grabs her and flies her into orbit. And once the fear toxin wears off, he realizes he just murdered his wife and unborn child. And in a fit of rage, he goes to the holding area where the cops and Batman have captured the Joker and murders him in cold blood. Now, regardless of how you feel about Superman killing the Joker for vengeance for what happened to Lois and his child, this is still the wrong thing to do. The Joker was captured and in police custody at this point. He was a civilian who was supposed to be protected. He shouldn't have been harmed any further because he had been captured. But Superman killed him in cold blood, making the world realize he's a flawed individual, that he isn't the paragon of hope that everyone believes he is. This is what Lex Luthor wants to do in Batman v Superman. But framing someone isn't the same thing as this. Everything Lex does in this movie is just tricking the world into believing Superman is bad. But Superman in this movie is still a good person. He's not proving himself right by the end of this. I don't understand how this massive oversight just happened. It's the focal point of this movie. He wants to prove Superman's evil, but he's not actually proving Superman's evil. How do you mess up the core point of the movie? This is the core driving force of the antagonist. I don't understand how you could miss the point of that and have him do something completely different. If this movie was just Lex doesn't like Superman, so he frames him for a bunch of stuff, that would make sense to me. But that's not what he wants to do. So I don't understand how you could have messed this up. So that's just the conceptual stage of Lex's plan, and it doesn't make sense. Now onto the execution. His plan only works because he just knows everything and anything that's going to happen, so everything works out in his favor. Let's just look at the opening stage to his plan, the terrorist attack that starts off Superman being framed for a bunch of things he never actually does. So, he works behind the scenes, Lex Luthor does, to get Lois Lane an interview with a terrorist leader. He also plants some of his own mercenaries inside of this terrorist cell. Lois arrives on the scene to interview this leader, and she is accompanied by Jimmy Olsen, who in this universe is a CIA agent who gets found out by the terrorists and executed. I find it hilarious that in the theatrical cut of the movie, they took out the scene where he says his name is Jimmy Olsen. So I guess they realized that it was a bad idea to kill off Superman's best friend with him never meeting him and also being a CIA agent instead of a photographer for the Daily Planet. But it's right here in full glory in the director's cut, so joyous me. But anyway, after Jimmy is found out to be a CIA agent and executed, Lois is then taken captive by the terrorists. And this is the start of Lex's plan. Lois is taken conveniently out of sight of all of the other terrorists, so then Lex's men execute all of the members of the terrorist cell and then light their bodies on fire to give it the illusion that Clark used his heat vision to kill everyone while he was going to save Lois. Now, while this is all happening, the US government has a strike force that is moving their way to the terrorist cell location to save Lois and take out all the terrorists that are there. And eventually, the US government decides, it's not worth it saving this one person, we're just going to drone strike the area, and they fire a missile from their drone to destroy the area, and that's when Superman shows up. Now, the strike force is just outside of the terrorist cell. They can see everything that's happening there. They see Superman arrive and destroy the missile. And all the terrorists inside were killed with bullets before they were lit on fire, and Lois could hear the gunfire, as well as the hostages who are also on the base. We never see the perspective of the hostages, so there's a potential they could have seen what happened there as well. Clark arrives, he saves Lois, and kills this guy. You cannot convince me that this man is not dead. There's no way Superman hit him that fast through 2 brick walls and he's just perfectly fine. I do not buy that. Normal people cannot survive something like that. Anyway, Lois is now saved, everything seems fine, and then that's when the big problem happens. Superman has now been framed for murdering all of these terrorists, and another quick sidebar, in real life, no one would care if Superman killed a bunch of terrorists. No one cares if terrorists are killed in the real world because people view terrorists as bad people. On a general standpoint, most people view terrorists as bad people. Like, imagine if Superman existed in our world and he killed Osama bin Laden after 9/11, and people were like, oh man, screw you, Superman, you killed the dude that did 9/11, you're a terrible person. That sounds stupid, doesn't it? Because it is. Nevertheless, Superman is brought up on trial for killing these terrorists. The US government has a whole Senate-based trial around what to do about Superman if he decides to start killing people. Which, that's understandable, but it's all predicated based off of him killing a bunch of evil terrorists that the US government was going to kill anyway. But that's besides the point. At this trial, they're like, oh, Superman killed these guys. This is bad. Blah, 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 blah. But they never do anything to actually properly execute this trial. You see, all of those terrorists were shot to death before they were lit on fire. If you were to run an autopsy on them, you'd find out they have bullet holes in them prior to being lit on fire. That's incriminating evidence that Superman didn't kill them. Lois Lane was on site of this attack and heard the gunfire prior to Superman arriving. And the soldiers outside of the base saw when Superman arrived. If you brought them both up on the witness stand, that would create a time frame from which these men were attacked, and when Superman arrived, that would go, well, wait a minute. If there was an attack prior to when Superman arrived, then he wasn't there to kill these guys. They were already dead by the time that he got there. But no, the only person who actually shows up on the witness stand here is this lady who lives in Gotham City and was blackmailed by Lex Luthor to say her parents were at that base and Superman killed them. No one apparently ran a background check on this woman, so they didn't find out her parents are actually well and alive somewhere else in America. So, like, you expect me to believe that what is probably the biggest trial in not even U.S. history, but just the world in general, the trial of a superhero, the world's, well, not the world's first, because technically Wonder Woman was the world's first superhero, and then Batman's been around for it, but like the world's most recognizable superhero at this time. That no one did a background check. No one did an autopsy on the corpses at the scene that they're framing Superman for being a part of murdering. No one questioned the people who were on site, whether it be Lois, the soldiers, or the hostages that were set free after the terrorists were killed. No one does a background check on the only character witness they have up on the stand. None of this stuff is done. You want to know why? Because they need to frame Superman for killing all of these people. And if real world elements were executed in the process of this very important trial, then obviously it will fall apart. So they have to omit all of this stuff. But then once you realize they did all this stuff, it drives you insane because you're like, well, Lex Luthor's plan doesn't work then. You can't just say, oh, it worked because all of these people happen to be incompetent, because saying all of these people were incompetent versus his plan just shouldn't fundamentally work is bullshit. And if that isn't enough for you, let's go to the next part of his plan, right? Okay, so after the world starts hating Superman because of him being framed for the whole terrorist incident, the Senate trial continues, and Lex gets a character witness to go to the trial. This being the man who lost his legs during the Battle of Metropolis. We see this at the beginning of the movie when we see the perspective of that battle through Bruce's eyes. I think it's a really well done scene. I very much like that opening sequence, but there's a Wayne Tech employee who loses his legs during that tragedy. And this man has been manipulated by Lex to be pushed to the brink to accept his offer to go on trial so that Lex can secretly put a bomb encased in lead inside of his wheelchair to detonate it inside of the Senate office. Now, there's so much wrong here. This employee lost his job at Wayne Enterprises. I don't know why he lost his job at Wayne Enterprises, because he was an office worker. Are you telling me that Bruce couldn't have him work from his computer at home or transfer him to a different building? Like, I understand the man lost his legs, but I personally know people who are missing limbs in real life and they still perfectly function in society. They have lives, they have jobs, they do things. So the idea that, like, this man lost his legs and he just stopped working, like he got fired, quit, whatever, it just kind of baffles me. They never say he quit. He still loves Bruce Wayne and Wayne Enterprises. He mentions it a few times in the movie, but he doesn't have a job there anymore? Why not? And Bruce was trying to send him checks, but Lex, I guess, manipulated Wayne Enterprises and was blocking the checks from reaching him. And then wrote slander on the checks so Bruce could get them the day of the trial and so he could see the man blow up and be upset that he didn't know about this. How does Lex do all of this? I don't know, but it's there to instigate Bruce into fighting Superman. Oh, that's right. I forgot to say, Lex knows in this universe that Bruce Wayne is Batman. How does he know Bruce Wayne is Batman? I don't know. He just does. And he manipulates him into stealing kryptonite to go fight Superman, which also doesn't make sense because he's trying to legalize kryptonite to turn it into a weapon, but there's only one kryptonite rock that he found that he wants Batman to steal to fight Superman, but that doesn't make sense. And it's stupid, and I'm getting sidetracked here. So the Wayne Tech employee, he convinces him to take the wheelchair, he goes to the Senate building, and he blows it up. Now, the reason Superman couldn't stop the bombing is because he didn't know that there was a bomb in the room. But the whole point of this was to make the world go, hey Superman, why didn't you stop the bombing? You were there, you should have known that a terrorist secretly planted a bomb inside of the building. Now, here's the thing. This doesn't make sense because how would he know there was a bomb secretly planted in the building? Like, how would the world know he should have known there was a bomb in the building unless the world knows that Superman has X-ray vision? But then, at the same time, the reason why Superman couldn't see the bomb in the building is because Lex Luthor encased the bomb in lead. So in case you're someone who doesn't know anything about the comics, within the confines of the comics, Superman's X-ray vision cannot see through lead. It's one of the weaknesses his X-ray vision has. So Lex in this universe is self-aware that Superman can't see through lead. But how does he know that? We've only seen Superman use X-ray vision once, and it was in the flashback sequence when it first activated in Man of Steel. So how does Lex know that he can do this when it's never been brought up to the audience? He doesn't use it that often. It was just like, oh, hey, he uses it like this one time in Man of Steel. He doesn't really use it ever again. And now Lex just knows the weakness to it. We didn't even know the weakness to it from the confines of these movies. So how does he know the weakness to it if we didn't know? As far as we know, Superman doesn't even know the weakness to it because he doesn't do anything with his X-ray vision or ever bring it up. So how does Lex know this to do this? It's like they did this based off of what comic book fans know, but if you're someone who only watches the movies, you're going to be like, wait, he can't see through lead? I didn't know that. So, okay, I guess. Like, it doesn't have the impact it's supposed to have. A reveal of a villain's master plan is supposed to be like, oh, I see how that happened because of all these things that connect together. That's how you're supposed to react. You're not supposed to go, but wait a minute. That's not the proper reaction you should have to a reveal this way. But, those are all the groundwork stages of Lex's plan. The concept and the final first stages of his execution to make Superman a terrible person so the world thinks he sucks. Now he moves on to killing him. So like I said, he manipulated Batman to want to fight and kill Superman. So Bruce, he gears up, he steals the kryptonite after following all of the breadcrumb trails that Lex laid for him so he can get the kryptonite and gear himself up to fight Superman. And then Lex kidnaps Lois Lane and Superman's mother Martha so that he'll go and fight Batman. Now, I have a problem with this because it has the same issue of the rest of the movie. This works just because it needs to work. So Superman can move super fast and has super hearing and can fly. That's the reason he was able to save Lois at the beginning of the movie. He knew she was in danger because he could hear it, so he flew across the world to save her from the terrorists. So Lex kidnaps Martha and Lois at two very different times and two very different locations and brings them to where he needs them. Martha is hidden away at a discreet location as leverage to force Superman to go fight Batman, and Lois is taken to Lex so he can push her off of the building to bait out Superman to come to him. Now here's the problem with this. When Lex pushes Lois off the building and she screams, Superman shows up and saves her. But when Martha and Lois were both kidnapped and they both screamed, he didn't react at all. He didn't try and get there. He didn't show up, and they show him looking around. They scream in danger. In those two instances, his mother and the woman of his life that he loves, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't show up to save them. But then the following scene, when Lois is in danger again, he shows up and saves her. What was different about these two scenes? It'd be different if the two of them were stealthily incapacitated and no one was able to hear them scream. But no, they do scream and they try and fight back when they get kidnapped. Why didn't Clark hear them or do anything? That doesn't make any sense, because it's like, oh wait, well, now she's in danger again because I need Superman to be here now. So now he can react to it. I'm sorry, I was getting a bit frustrated there, so I had to take a moment. Now I'm back. I'm a bit more calm now. So let's keep going. So now Superman saves Lois. He goes, he talks to Lex. Lex is like, I kidnapped your mom, Superman. Go kill Batman. So then Superman goes over to fight Batman, and he's like, hey, Bruce, listen, I'm sorry. I was wrong about you. You're not a terrible person, which I left that out of this whole video because Lex's plan is so stupid that it takes up so much of what I need to talk about. Superman confronted Batman earlier in the movie because he was investigating all of the stuff that Batman does because, yeah, I forgot, Batman kills in this movie. You know, the man who hates killing because his parents were murdered in front of him with guns, uses guns and kills people in this universe. It's just so great, man. So, Clark hates the fact that Batman kills people. You know, it's not like he hasn't killed people before, right? So he hates that Batman kills people and wants to write an article about it to expose him to the world. But Perry White at the Daily Planet doesn't want him to do that. So he decides to confront him as Superman. And he's like, hey, stop being Batman because I don't like the fact that you kill people, even though I'm being a hypocrite right now saying this. So then now he gets to the fight. He's like, Bruce, hey, listen, I'm sorry I was a dick earlier. You're not actually a terrible person. I kind of need your help. And Batman isn't listening to him. But instead of Clark laying out exactly what the problem is, he vaguely talks to him and then starts fighting him. It's like, dude, use your words. Why are you being like, I just, well, you see, because, could you just listen? Because, like, I got something to, just go, hey, man, listen, Lex Luthor kidnapped my mom and he's forcing me to kill you. Can you help me save my mother? Is that difficult? It didn't even take me 30 seconds to say all of that. Like, what is wrong with you, Superman? Talk. You're a competent person. You're not stupid. Use your words. But, we can't have that because the movie's called Batman v Superman. They have to fight each other, and we forgot to create a complex and coherent reason for them to fight each other now, So, hey, now they have to fight. So they fight because they need to fight. And then right before Batman kills him, Superman refers to his mother by her first name. And coincidentally, both Batman and Superman, their mothers share the same first name. So Batman kind of stops, then Lois shows up because they force her into the third act of both Man of Steel and Batman v Superman because they're trying to make you care about her character because she was supposed to be like the driving force behind Superman turning evil in Justice League Part 2, but we're never getting that movie, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, she shows up and she's like, oh, Martha's his mom's name. Don't kill him. And then Batman's like, oh, dude, I'm sorry. I didn't realize our moms had the same name, bro. We're totally bros for life now. I'll save her. You go confront Lex. So then Batman goes to save Martha, and I love this scene so much. I still wish Batman wasn't killing people in this scene, but it's really well choreographed. It's well directed. I very much like it. And the only gripe I have with it story-wise is that, like, why don't these guys kill Martha? Because, like, Batman showing up to, like, attack Martha clearly means something's wrong since Superman was supposed to be killing Batman. So, obviously, something's wrong here. So, why didn't they kill her? They kind of just don't. I feel like that breaches the terms of Superman and Lex's agreement, but that's besides the point. And also, I find this scene very cute.
I'm a friend of your son's.
I figured. The cape?
I just like Martha in these movies. She's pretty good. She's probably, like, the most untainted character in this entire franchise, but nevertheless, now we get to the dumbest aspect of Lex's plan. Everything else I told you before is stupid, but this right here, what this man is about to do, is the dumbest thing I can possibly think of. So Superman arrives to confront Lex, and something I didn't mention, Lex gained control of the Kryptonian ship that Zod was on from Man of Steel and Zod's corpse, and he used the ship to learn about all of, like, science and all of these things that he shouldn't have access to, but he does now. And he creates a monster. Superman arrives to confront him, and he had started the machine prior to Superman arriving, in the middle of the fight between Batman and Superman. And out of this sludge comes Doomsday, which if you do not know who Doomsday is one of Superman's most powerful enemies that he's ever faced in a comic called The Death of Superman. Now, in this story, Superman fights Doomsday, and he cannot beat him by his normal means. He can't just stop him and incapacitate him like he would do all of his other villains. He has to go all out and inevitably dies while taking out Doomsday in the fight. Now, this was adapted beautifully into the Death of Superman movie, which is probably one of my favorite animated movies of all time, but I'll talk about that in a second. So, Lex creates this unstoppable, mindless monster. But the thing is, he can't control it. And his original plan was for Batman to kill Superman, but he started creating Doomsday while the two of them were fighting. So, this is the first thing Doomsday does when it's born. It tried to kill him. So, if Superman died in the fight with Batman like he originally planned, what was he gonna do about Doomsday? Doomsday would have killed him and then went on a rampage and probably destroyed the world. Like, what exactly was your plan here, genius? Like, if Superman didn't survive and didn't kill Batman, and then Batman didn't happen to meet Wonder Woman earlier in the movie, the world would be royally fucked. Like, what exactly was your course of action creating this mindless, almost unstoppable killing machine? Like, what possibly could you have thought would happen by creating this thing? He doesn't ever say like, oh, I thought I could control it or something like that. He just makes it, it tries to kill him, it gets into a fight with Superman, the two of them die. And it's just like, well, everything worked out in my favor. So I don't need to talk about how stupid the plan was because everything just worked out for me. No, you can't just do that. You can't just expect people to accept that a plan doesn't make sense and it's like, oh, it worked out for him. So like, all of the possibilities of it not working out don't matter because it did work out for them. That's not how that works. That's not how it works in the slightest bit. So, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, they all meet up. They fight Doomsday. They get into a big fight. They're like, we can't beat Doomsday. And Batman's like, well, what if we use the Kryptonite Spear to go and kill him? But, like, this is stupid because Wonder Woman's sword can pierce through Doomsday's skin. Like, she cuts off his arm. So, they get the Kryptonite Spear to stab Doomsday in the heart. But Wonder Woman could just stab him in the heart because her sword can pierce through its skin. So like, why didn't they just kill him like that? Or like decapitate him with Wonder Woman's sword? Why didn't they just do that? Why did they need to kill him with the Kryptonite Spear? Like, yeah, he's made with Kryptonite DNA, but like, the whole point of Kryptonite is it weakens you to pierce the skin. That's the whole point of what Kryptonite's for. It weakens Clark and makes him not as strong as he is, so you can, like, do normal damage to him as if he was a regular human. But in Doomsday's case, Wonder Woman can do that damage already with her weapon. Why doesn't she just kill him? Why do we need the Kryptonite Spear? It's so unnecessary. And then Lois is still here, because she just is. She's just forced to be here. She throws the Kryptonite Spear into the water, and then off of no context, no one contacts her. She just goes like, oh wait, I probably shouldn't have thrown it in the water, and then goes to get it and then almost dies, and then Superman has to save her. It's very stupid. It's a pointless scene. It's literally here because they forgot that Lois is at the end of the Death of Superman story, so they needed to force her into it to get her there, and it's just like, stop it. Stop. You should have just made this a separate movie, because The Death of Superman is probably one of my favorite Superman animated movies of all time. But that movie and this movie are the antithesis to one another. This movie's whole focus is how Lex makes the world hate Superman, and then he dies, and everyone's like, Superman, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were being framed, man. You were a cool dude after all. I'm sorry. Meanwhile, the Death of Superman animated movie is about how the world loves Superman, how he's a paragon of hope for them. He's their beacon of light that makes them believe in the better of society, that makes them love each other and care for each other. That's what that movie showcases. And it also showcases his love and friendship with the Justice League and Lois Lane. As a matter of fact, the whole core of that movie is Clark building up the confidence to propose to Lois and tell her that he's Superman. It's awesome. And then this culminates in his battle with Doomsday, his most taxing battle ever that results in him dying. And then the world is heartbroken at his death. That is an awesome story. This is some bullshit. Doomsday just shows up in the third act because we need a CGI monster for the superheroes to fight. It's not like we could have had the movie climax with the Batman versus Superman fight, but it didn't make sense. So I guess maybe they felt they needed to shoehorn this in anyway. You know, and also set up sequels for Justice League. But whatever, who cares? The movie's trash anyway. Let's wrap this up. So Superman grabs Kryptonite's spear, he attacks Doomsday and dies. And like, this is so lackluster in comparison to how he dies in the Death of Superman animated movie. Like, look at this.
Clark. I got your note. And I love you too.
That shit's badass compared to this.
Tragic!
So, Superman's dead now, Lois is sad, the world is sad, they have two separate funerals, one for Clark Kent, one for Superman. You know, the world mourns Superman in like a militaristic way, and they're all like, oh, we're gonna miss you, Superman. They have a monument for him and everything like that. Meanwhile, the real Superman, Clark, being put to rest in Smallville, and Bruce is like, hey, Wonder Woman, we should form the Justice League because I have a feeling that bad stuff's gonna happen. And she's like, okay. And then Lex has a maniacal rant that's alluding to when Darkseid and Steppenwolf are supposed to show up in the future Justice League movies. And then the last shot of the movie is the dirt rising off of Clark's coffin, implying that he's still alive. Except, no, he's not, because later on we find out that Clark is just dead and they have to resurrect him. But we'll get there when we get there. All in all, I hate this movie. There's a few things in it that I do like. I like the opening scene. I pretty much like every scene about Batman. If you took out the fact that he killed in this movie, I think Ben Affleck would probably be considered like the best Batman, next to like Robert Pattinson. But like, if you took out all the killing, I think people would love him and all of his scenes significantly more. And I do think that Zack Snyder can direct a good Batman movie. Maybe not written by him or the people that he usually makes movies with, but written by someone that has like a care for Batman in a non-murderous way. I think he could probably direct a phenomenal Batman movie. And I actually really like Wonder Woman in this movie. I think that they kind of did a red herring thing where Wonder Woman was kind of teased to be a different character. Like, every time you meet her before you learn she's Wonder Woman, she kind of has this sexual tongue-in-cheek dialogue with Bruce Wayne, making you think she's Catwoman. I mean, hell, the first time she meets him, she robs him of something that he was using, which is very Catwoman-like, until the big reveal that she's actually Wonder Woman. I think this would have been more impactful and like considered one of the coolest super reveals in a movie, as long as they just, you know, didn't plaster her in all of the trailers and the marketing for the film. But you can't change the past, so it is what it is. But yeah, I'm burned out. I'm done. I'm not going to talk about this movie for a while now, and I don't plan on watching it again. And if I do, damn. But that'll be the end of part 2 of December. I hope you enjoyed me going through the death of the DCEU throughout the course of this entire month. So tune in next time to see what I'm going to talk about then. And remember, folks, you're innocent to prove villainous, and I will catch you next time.